Hello there. Welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour Ixalan. It's Paul Chun. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. Welcome back. It's nice to have you along. We've got round one of the second booster draft all lined up for you. And we've got our two undefeated players. They're the only ones left in the field. And it's Yam Wing Chun versus Piotr Glogowski. They're ready. Let's head down. It's time for round number 9 here from Pro Tour Ixalan. Hello and welcome back to coverage here at Pro Tour Ixalan. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Chun. We're covering limited here in the early portion of day number 2. And we've got, Paul, only 2 undefeated players left in the entire field. And they're in the feature match area and they're playing against each other. And first one up here, Yam Wing Chun from Hong Kong, 8-0, plays for Team MTG Mint Card. On the other side of the table, that's Piotr Glogowski from Poland. This is only Piotr's third Pro Tour played.
Wow.
Or perhaps fourth. I think he's played 3 prior to this, but still very early in his career. And he's 8-0 here with a real golden opportunity here on day 2 to try to run it up. Now, Piotr ended up with black-white vampires deck here.
What is he doing?
Oh, no. He's looking for 2 drops, of course.
No, look at his hand. He's got both of the 2 drops in his hand.
Oh, it must be nice, Yam.
No, and it looks like he's got a Pillar of Origins, too, so he did decide to play the Pillar of Origins in his deck.
Yeah. We took a quick stop by, and he had it laid out in the pile. Looked like he was leaning towards that. And
not happy about it.
No, he said he doesn't think it's a very good card, but that you do what you got to do. Hey, here's an interesting choice now, Paul. He can keep repeating Barrage if he can cast it, but, you know, Graveyard's not the worst place for it either.
Right. It's got that raid trigger. If you do attack, you can pay 5 mana to return it back to your hand. And he needs lands. I imagine this is going straight to the graveyard.
Yeah, I'm not seeing another mountain in hand here for Yam.
That's got to probably give away to Piotr, at least, that, you know, Yam is likely looking for lands here.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that you and I noted while we watched Yam draft, he's in red-green.
And
he hit, too.
He needed it.
And he was desperate for 2 drops. That was the only piece of the puzzle that his deck was missing. And you and I were chatting while we were waiting to come back on the air, and, you know, we were thinking the die roll could be quite important for Yam, which he has won here.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 most important things for Yam Wing Chun. He's got great late game power in his deck. He really wants to draw one of his 2 2-drops. He actually is playing the Pillar of Origins, which also counts as a 2-drop, and he drew all 3 of them. And if he wants to, you know, kind of run well and, you know, potentially 3-0 this pod, he needs to do that often. And, you know, things going exactly according to plan this time around. And he's okay. Got a nice solid curve. He does still need to find more lands. He does have that Colossal Dreadmaw, but he's got the Pillar of Origin, so if he does draw a land, he has the nifty play of just being able to play a land, play Pillar, name Dinosaur, and play Ranging Raptors next turn.
That's right. Yeah, and with a little bluff attack there, just thought he'd get chippy. That that's not blocking anyway. It's just a free attack, but apparently Piotr's having none of it.
All right. Does Yam Wing Chun find a land here? Nope.
No, in fact, the opposite. He found one of his 3 Colossal Dreadmaws here, Paul. So that is really not what he wanted to see there off the top of the library. Though, as you noted, you know, he really does have a lot of good 3-drops in his deck. Once he hits that 3rd mana, that's kind of the first sigh of relief for him. He can follow up here, for example, with a Ranging Raptors.
Pretty solid play here. It's probably not going to be in combat for a while. If Yam Wing Chun opts to attack with this creature, I imagine it's going to get in for a few points of damage early.
That's right. Or he can leave it back. You know, it is holding back that Direfleet Hoarder quite nicely.
Yeah, and Yam choosing not to attack with the dagger.
The Ravenous Dagger.
The Ravenous Daggertooth, just because that is not a great trade. Piotr Glogowski is playing a white-black Vampires deck, so he does have multiple copies of Anointed Deacon, actually. He's got 2 copies of Anointed Deacon and 2 Call to the Feasts as well. So he's got the nice Vampire payoffs in his deck. And you know how we saw those Dark Nourishments? All went straight to Piotr's deck as well.
Okay.
2 copies of Dark Nourishment as well.
Piotr's going to go ahead and equip. He is a streamer here as well. I don't know if you knew that, but in Europe,
Oh, Piotr.
streams, yeah, it goes
Okay.
by Canister. Glogowski's pass the turn back to Yam, who does find land number 4.
So, yeah.
And now he's going to get in there.
Yeah,
And Piotr immediately no blocks.
No blocks. Oh, and Yam is deciding to be aggressive here, playing the deeper warrior. Oh,
He's going off.
Yeah.
All 3
Look at
2-drops
this.
fall.
2 spells in 1 turn. At least, look, he put the dinosaur token underneath the pillar.
Oh, that's kind of cute.
Naming dinosaur. All right. So
Hey, with a land off the top, he can start slamming
this just
Colossal
looks like a totally
Dreadmaws.
different deck.
Yeah, he has 2 of them in his hand. His hand right now is Colossal Dreadmaw, Colossal Dreadmaw.
Yeah.
And if he can find a land off the top of his library, he can go Dreadmaw, go, attack you, whatever, and play another one. And I'll tell you what, Colossal Dreadmaw is a handful. You need a real removal spell to take that thing down. Those Dark Nourishments,
Yeah. He's in one of those situations, I like to call them kind of win-win situations, where you're in a spot where if you draw a land, it's great for you. You get to play your 6-drops. But if you don't, you can probably play every other spell in your deck.
That's a great point. Yeah, reminds me of Zendikar, like Landfall.
Right.
I don't care which one I draw.
I guess he does have a couple of copies of Unfriendly Fire, which you can't cast off the Pillar of Warriors. That would be the absolute worst card he could draw here.
What does Glogowski got here? He's going to attack with both.
I would guess maybe a Call to the Feast. I don't know. Oh,
you were right.
A little bit of everything.
He also has Skullduggery, Slash of Talons as well. Lots of options here.
Wing Chun doesn't have like a great block. He could trade the Deep Root Warrior for the Dire Fleet Hoarder, but maybe he does not want to give Piotr the treasure if he trades with the Dire Fleet Hoarder. The Ixalan's Diviner doesn't have a great block here, so.
He could chump with it. That would save the damage and not give Glogowski the treasure, but it's a pretty high cost to just give away a creature for that. He's just going to take it.
Yeah, Yam is looking pretty good here on the race, but the Call to the Feast, of course, will kind of change things.
It doesn't look very good against a pair of Colossal Dreadmaws, though. Let's see if Yam Wing Chun can find that land off the top of his library.
Here comes the slow roll.
Oh, yeah, he's going to give us full value here.
What is it?
It was a Thrash of Raptors.
Okay.
And that really does speak to what you just mentioned. It's like, that's cool.
That's a totally fine draw.
That's almost a Colossal Dreadmaw.
Can even play it off my pillar.
Exactly.
Yeah, 5/3 Trampler actually does just a pretty good job attacking through those tokens.
It's very similar to a Colossal Dreadmaw. The biggest weakness, of course, though, is that it does die to Dark Nourishment. And Piotr has one in hand, too.
Yam Wing Chun.
Whoa.
Looking to see.
He read it upside down.
Oh.
Look at that.
The beats.
Bring it in, he says. No problem.
All right. Are we going to see a double block on the Daggertooth? Yep.
Yep.
No lands for you. That's a 3-mana 2/3 unblockable.
You heard Yam say no effects. That's him saying, I'm going to pass priority.
Yam Wing Chun also gains 2 life here.
Mm-hmm. Yam does too, right? Piotr's going to take just 2 damage in the transaction.
And time to drop a dino. Represent that dual shot. Look
Gotta
at
do it. Gotta do it. And pass the turn back. Now, if Piotr has his 5th land, this is a good opportunity to use a Dark Nourishment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it looks like he does. He has that swamp in hand. And I would look to do that before Yam Wing Chun untaps because he can have cards like Crash the Ramparts.
Totally.
Be very, very bad for him. He could also choose to play an Anointed Deacon, but that doesn't seem very good because the 3/1 life linking vampire gets brickwalled by the Ixalan's Diviner. So yeah, Dark Nourishment on the big trampler. It's time to race.
They are racing at this point. Piotr's life total was buffered by the Call to the Feast and the blocking and trading that card was able to do, plus the leftover vampire. Of course, benefits him pretty strongly in a race. In Yam's seat, it's kind of interesting because he actually would prefer for this game to go a little longer so he can deploy those 2 Colossal Dreadmaw. And he knows that his top end is probably just better than what Piotr has going on.
Yeah, but it always just hurts just to throw away a creature, but it looks like he's going for it here.
Ugh.
He could choose to just not attack with the Ranging Raptors if he finds himself in a situation where he really wants to find that land.
Yeah, maybe he'll find it here. We'll find out in
Just
about
gotta
12
believe.
seconds. There it is. You just got to believe, Paul
Just
says.
believe.
Well, Yam did, and he found a forest. So now the question is just, what does combat look like here for Yam? Because
Well,
what he's going to be thinking, right, okay, I play the Dreadmaw. What do my attacks look like? But more importantly, what does it look like if Piotr untaps and goes, cool, contract killing that? Right? Or says, you know what, I'm going to Pious Interdiction that. Does he take a ton of damage? Because right now, Yam's attacks look quite nice. There's only a 1/1 back.
So he would take 6 damage if Piotr had a spot removal spell. If Yaming Chun decides to be a little more conservative, I can see him attacking with just the Deep Root Warrior, leaving back the Ranging Raptors to kind of protect himself against the spot removal spell.
That's exactly what he's done here, Paul. And here it is. Colossal Dreadmaw hitting the battlefield now for Yam. And that should leave him fairly stable. Let's take a look at what Piotr's working with over here.
Yeah, Piotr's got some nice tricks in hand, but not very
Okay.
good against big, giant dinosaurs. You know, Slash of Talons, Skullduggery, Dark Nourishment. Good against all the 3 drops or lower. But once we hit 6 drop territory, these cards don't do a whole lot. What's better than 1 Dreadmaw?
Double Dreadmaw?
And keep in mind, he also still has that repeating barrage in his graveyard. He just has basically tapped out every single turn for a different threat.
That's a great point, and something that's going to come up after Yam deploys the other Dreadmaw. Like you said, Colossal Dreadmaw just at the common slots tends to dominate any board that it's in, especially given how the format has played out, where smaller creatures and cheaper effects rule the day. And the perfect example is what you see here from Glogowski. You know, the 2 cards in his hand are cards that people like quite a bit, specifically Skullduggery. Slash of Talons, pretty good too, but those just look weak.
Right.
They're just, small effects compared to the Colossal Dreadmaw.
No more slow roll. He's got what he needs.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. He's just like, you know what? I'm just playing another Dreadmaw. I'm totally fine here. No worries. I think Piotr currently is just looking to set up a block here where, he blocks the Colossal Dreadmaw with the Direfleet Hoarder and finish off the Colossal Dreadmaw with the Slash of Talons in hand. So that's kind of his plan, and just basically cross the fingers and hope that Yam doesn't have another, some kind of pump spell to save the Colossal Dreadmaw here. Does Yam have a decent attack with the other creatures? I guess he could also attack with the Deep Root Warrior. It's not a horrible attack. And the Ranging Raptors would just get blocked by the Anointed Deacon. So yeah, this is the attacks I would expect. So now Piotr is in a situation. Does he want to use a Slash of Talons on the Deep Root Warrior right now? Or does he want to get rid of that Dreadmaw? And the Dreadmaw seems like the bigger problem. He can deal with the smaller creatures.
What would the block look like? Would it just be the Hoarder?
Yeah, I would guess that it would probably just be the Hoarder on the Colossal Dreadmaw. But I guess he...
No, it looks like he's going to prioritize
No
getting
combat
the 2
trick,
drop.
please. Okay.
Yeah, this is a less risky play.
Right.
But this also has Piotr taking a big hit of damage. He's going to fall down to 7 life here, especially given the follow-up play that we know that Yam has.
Boom!
Yeah, how about another one? Piotr's like, wait.
Gotta keep up that dual shot mana still, even with no cards in hand.
Yeah, he's still repping. This is going to be very difficult for Glogowski to race if he can't find an answer for these Colossal Dreadmaws.
Let's take a look if he has actually removal for big creatures. Or good racing tools. Oh, there's a Mark of the Vampire in his deck. That would be a nice way to race.
Well, he just drew a Glorifier of Dusk off the top of his library. I tell you what, a Mark of the Vampire next turn would do quite nicely.
That would be huge. Although he might just be dead before that.
That's true. He's going to have to throw some pretty brutal blocks in here. Now, as it stands, as we know, Yam is out of cards. But, as Paul mentioned a few minutes ago, he does have Repeating Barrage. And that is a form of inevitability that he can lean on in a little while. Because, I mean, even if Piotr decides to bite the bullet and throw a bunch of multi-blocks in, it's hard to imagine that he's going to be able to just completely wipe the board here for Yam.
One does not need cards in hand with 2 Colossal Dreadmaws on the battlefield.
And a Repeating Barrage.
And a Repeating Barrage in the graveyard.
Yeah, Yam was actually past that Repeating Barrage
Yeah.
at a time when he really needed 2-mana spells, 2-mana creatures specifically. But
I think it was like between that and like a nest robber or something like that.
it was. And like we had a fun.
It's just like I can't do it. I can't take the nest
and we're
robber.
Like, no, get out of here. You can take the repeating barrage.
Okay, so moving the Pirate's Cutlass means that Piotr actually cannot play the Glorifier of Dusk this turn. This does give him a 3/2 lifelinker. And with the Anointed Deacon, that can become a 5-power creature. Gain him a bunch of life for the racing situation.
So,
and if Yamwing Chun blocks with the Colossal Dreadmaw, he can use the Skullduggery to finish off the Dreadmaw here.
do you think that Piotr is assuming that Yam is going to feel forced to block with the Colossal Dreadmaw here?
Well, it is still just a 2-toughness creature. I would probably just put my Ranging Raptors in front of that.
That's what I would do too. Because the thing is that problem isn't changing. He's going to be able to equip and target. There's going to be big creatures hitting Yam for the foreseeable future. Yep. There's something also suspicious here from Yam's perspective. It just doesn't, doesn't it just feel like I really don't want to lose my Colossal Dreadmaw to a Vampire Zeal or a Skullduggery?
Also, blocking with the Ranging Raptors isn't horrible because if you block, fetch a mountain, and draw another mountain, you can actually get the Repeating Barrage back and cast it on the same turn.
You can repeat Repeating Barrage?
You can repeat the Repeating Barrage,
Oof.
yes.
I like this block a lot from Yam. This is not going to work out really the well that Piotr wanted, and as you mentioned, having his mana constrained like this is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I don't know. Not playing that Glorify of Dusk might be pretty rough here.
Yeah, I wonder if he needed to take this turn to get that down.
Because if you play the Glorify of Dusk, you can actually still use the Skullduggery to trade one for, well, it would be, I guess, 2 for 1, but you would get one of those Colossal Dreadmaws off the board.
Yeah, he can do that on his turn. He can put it on the Anointed Deacon, the sword.
Oh, yeah, he can
Cutlass.
move the equipment, yes.
Yeah, and then use his Skullduggery defensively, but he's taking a big hit to do it, and he's losing his Anointed Deacon, and he's still going to get the Repeating Barrage back.
Right.
Got some updates for you from our side tables, by the way. Paulo Vitor Damarosa, who we watched, is playing against Brad Maxwell. They're at 1 game apiece, and Ki Wen Tao is up a game over Zhao Han on our back table as well.
Time to fetch Mountain. Piotr gains a good amount of life. Wait, what was that?
He
shuffled first, then got the Mountain.
I think he forgot to get the Mountain. Stay focused, yeah.
All right. Just anything but forest. That's probably what he's thinking.
Yeah, pretty
Mountain
much.
is a good. Mountain is actually a pretty good draw here.
He's already drawn all of his cheap spells, all 3 of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He can't draw a 2-drop.
Nope.
What are the upsides of having no 2s? You can't draw them in the late game.
Yam asked, "Is it my turn? Can I go?" And this happens all the time in Magic. And Piotr said, "Nope, not yet." He does need to move that Pirate's Cutlass over to something else to figure out how his blocks are going to go.
Yeah, does he even have a block here? Like, at this point, because he's used a Skullduggery, he can move the Pirate's Cutlass onto one of his creatures, but in order to get rid of one of the Dreadmaws, he has to double block.
Oh, it's a miserable situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Piotr, you can tell that he's trying to work his way out of this mess. But if we just took a snapshot knowing the hands and stuff, he's way behind.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
he's losing this game most of the time. This was a pretty ambitious play that he made here, hoping that Yam might fall for it and block with his Colossal Dreadmaw. That would have been great for Piotr, but Yam, he's not falling for that.
Yeah, this not his first rodeo, and this format's been around for a long time. People are very well aware of the common combat tricks, and White Black has access to the 2 best ones.
It's almost
Vampire
worse
Zeal
that he had the mana open for both, because you're like, you can't convince yourself, he would have used a Vampire Zeal. It's like, no, he could just have the other one. And I wouldn't be shocked to see Yam get pretty aggressive here.
Oh, for sure.
It's like he's going to be able to get back the Repeating Barrage.
And Glogowski can't even really represent Vampire Zeal here, because if he wanted to do that, he would have put the Pirate's Cutlass on the Anointed Deacon, because then a big first strike Anointed Deacon would have gotten rid of the Colossal Dreadmaw.
Yeah.
So because he put it on the Direfleet Hoarder, I would not put him on Vampire Zeal here.
Might have been a mistake, but By the way, it looks like the judges are just asking about the vampire token that was in combat before, and that perhaps it maybe shouldn't have died.
That depends on where he put the +1/+1. If he pumped
from the skullduggery.
From the skullduggery. If he pumped the Dusk Zealot for an additional point of damage, then it depends. Yeah, it depends on where he pumped with the skullduggery.
Well, let's listen in and see what they're saying. It looks like he got to keep it.
Yeah.
And so Piotr has a nice little chat with the judge, and unfortunately, this game hasn't changed for him, and he is still being attacked by.
It's a 1/1 life linker, you know. It helps with the racing situation.
True.
But he's still getting chomped down by these two gigantic dinosaurs.
Now we don't know what Yam has in hand here.
Oh, no blocks. Going to 1. Does he have a mountain? And he has the mountain.
Did he draw the mountain?
He
did. So that's what Piotr was not playing around. He was saying, okay, well, if you drew the mountain, I'm dead.
Right.
But if you didn't, then I might be able to, leverage the lifelink plus the anointed deacon, and really he didn't have any good blocks anyway. Like the situation that pops up often there is you think, oh, why didn't he block? He could have survived. Reality, though, he wouldn't have won that game if he blocked.
I think he puts himself in the best position to win by not blocking.
I agree. I think that was the correct play, but it did not work out for him. Yam Wing Chang, he is 8-0 and looking to go 9-0 here. He's up a game. We'll be back with more Magic after these messages.
Check out Ixalan Booster Draft Leagues on Magic Online. Draft anytime, play anytime. Available now. For more information, visit mtgo.com.
Fans are the people we want to hear because there are way more fans than there are Wizards employees, for one. And for two, they know what they want to see in this game. And so we have to listen. We are committed to listening to the fans, and we're committed to bringing this experience, an experience together that makes sense to the fans.
Welcome back to the feature match area here at Pro Tour Ixalan. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon. As you can see, well, we've cleared out a couple of our matches. I mentioned Kiwen having beaten Zhao Han, and while we were gone, Guillaume Matignon also won his match over Sam Illenfelt, and that is 2-0 in favor of Guillaume. That leaves Brad Maxwell versus Paulo Vitor Damarosa. Let's take a little peek here and see what they're up to. Oh, more dinosaurs. Oh, no.
That's not a Regisaur Alpha.
No, that's a Rageosaur. All right, that's not really what that is, but a Raging Swordtooth. But it looks like it may have perhaps killed that nest robber in the graveyard. Could that be?
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
It is still...
I mean, it rages. Like, you
I
don't
mean-
get to control it, but
Yeah, it should be non-dinosaur.
agree. Although I think that's a little against the flavor of, like, a dinosaur that's just thrashing around and out of control.
Right. And interesting, he's deciding to attack
What
into Skittering Heartstopper that can give itself Death Touch. And then Brad has decided not to block either.
What is going on here?
What is happening? This is so many levels.
Maybe they know. Maybe there was an Explore trigger or something.
Okay, I see a Pounce.
I do, too.
Maybe Pounce he was playing around? It just seems like so hard not to block with. I mean, clearly we're just looking in here, so there's a lot of things like they know that we don't know. But that was interesting.
So this part makes sense, right? That's a Direfleet Interloper, and it looks like it's got some vampire pants on. It's got a mark of the vampire on it, and that is making the race incredibly difficult for Paulo, even with 8 power on the battlefield. But why would you not want to
My
stem the bleeding
guess
here?
would be Brad knows about a trick, maybe through an Explorer
Has to
trigger
be.
or a previous game, knows about either a Pounce or a combat trick, and maybe Brad has a bounce spell or something to respond to PV's combat trick for the Skittering Heartstopper, and that's why he's passing with all this mana up. So
Right.
this turn, I wouldn't think Paulo would actually attack because Brad left up a ton of mana. He
Yeah.
could have something like
Well-
Run Aground, for example.
No, that's a great and Pounce is a good example because the way the sequence goes is Paulo goes I attack, Brad goes I block, Paulo goes pass priority, Brad goes okay I'll pay my 1 black mana. Remember he only had 1 swamp left. I'll give it Death Touch, and Paulo says in response I'm going to pounce, and then what happens is the Skittering Heartstopper dies. Brad takes the full 5, and the Swordtooth lives. Now with 2 swamps though, Brad can simply reactivate in response to pounce, and it doesn't work out. It looks like, though,
Okay.
he's going to take a duress.
Is that a
and
Blasting Cannons?
It is. It's Advances Blasting Cannon.
There were 2 in the
and
draft.
A pounce. That's right.
And neither of them tabled, so somebody has the other one, or PV has both. Oh, okay. Paulo does have both, and
He still has one.
it looks like Brad actually has a Depths of Desire in hand.
He does.
So that was actually kind of interesting. Both players just kind of playing around, different spells that they were representing there.
This is a really subtle interactions here, but cool game so far. Paulo with a good draw off the top of his library, another nice big dinosaur. Though
Deciding-
he seems to be content to just build out a huge board rather than forcing a trade with a Heartstopper there.
Yeah, he is at 7 life currently.
I'm curious to see how this plays out for Paulo. Remember, the Vance's Blasting Cannons also can provide him some serious long-term benefit if they end up in a bit of a stall out like we see here.
Paulo just deciding to keep all the creatures back so that the Direfleet Interloper just doesn't have a good attack. It's currently a 5/5 Menace Lifelinker. Is it time? Is it time to get the cannons ready? Will Vance have his time to shine?
I think Paulo's just thinking, do I have an attack here first? Otherwise, I think it might be.
Right. I don't know. He's at 7 life. I would be tempted to just try to get further ahead with the Vance's Blasting Cannons. Nothing's really changed between this and last turn, except he's just going to play this enchantment. Ah, he heard me.
He just played that was weird. He really pump faked an attack there. Like he was really thinking about going for an
Right.
attack and decided against it. All right, well, this leads me to think that this game is probably going to slip into a bit of a holding pattern here while Paulo tries to leverage this Vance's Blasting Cannons and kind of get a long-term advantage. So we've got our main match all ready to go. We'll head back up there, and I'll keep you updated as we find out what happens in this match, because it could go on for quite a while, and I don't want to hold our main match too long.
I like the sure strike revealed off the plastic
The
cannons.
awkward sure strike. Yeah, sometimes it's fine, I guess.
It's like, better play around it.
Yeah. All right.
All right, we got a we got a two drop again. Ixali's Diviner, MVP. Looks like there's a crushing canopy that's been boarded in.
Whoa, look at this from Glogowski here.
Thematic Compass.
Yeah. Is he main decking it?
He is.
That's strange. That is not a card that you see often in a Vampires deck.
Right.
You know, they usually don't have a room for a card that's slow and
Yeah.
clunky and defensive ultimately.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, against red-green dinosaurs, you can get that thing transformed. It actually looks pretty good.
And taking a look at Piotr's list, his deck is actually pretty defensive. It's not like your typical, player 2-drop and curve out vampire style deck. It's a little more defensive. It's got the double dark nourishments. It's got some removal effects, and it wants to kind of get to the late game. And this card is pretty good, and especially against the Colossal Dreadmaw deck. Look at this.
This could be a problem, though. This fundamental game plan from Glogowski could backfire on him in this particular matchup, because it is likely that Yam has a better late game plan than Glogowski does. And if he's going to sit here and try to grind into the late part of the game, he may find himself just overpowered. In addition to that, Yam's deck is quite cleanly pointed in that direction. There's Call to the Feast from Piotr, where Piotr's deck has some notable exceptions that don't really fit that plan. Like, if you look at his hand right now, he's got a Vicious Conquistador in
The
his
old
hand.
Vicious Conquistador Thematic Compass deck.
Right. Like, that's a great way to put it, right? Like, this is, it's funny because when you talk to pro-level Magic players, that's how they talk. How you just talked, Paul. You know, you've tested with these guys forever. You were on the Pro Tour forever before taking the job at WotC, so you're exactly like that. But that is it. That sums it up, right? These are two cards that just don't belong together.
Right. Oftentimes when you're drafting these decks, you need to kind of have like a cohesive game plan. And I think both of those cards could be individually powerful in certain decks, but certainly don't really go together. I mean, I could see Thematic Compass being like a good sideboard card, but it looks like he's playing it main deck. But still a pretty good turn for Piotr here. Got the Thrasher Raptors out of the way, got in some damage with the Call to the Feast tokens, and he's got one of the ultimate payoff cards for Vampire deck. He's got Sanctum Seeker.
So that's going to be the best card in his deck. Full stop.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That is the reason he probably opened it. Can we see? Not quite, right? Oh, so
It
close.
does not say.
Yeah, well, it would say right there. But
Oh, I see it. I see it. I can.
that says
make it out.
Seeker?
It looks like Seeker to
I
me.
think you're right.
Yeah.
And that is one of the best ways to get into the Vampires deck. Though, interestingly here, Piotr decides not to play it pre-combat.
I think he wants
must
to go
have
wide
other
here.
plans. Yeah.
I feel like another Call to the Feast plus the Conquistador is coming, and we're going to have a huge turn next turn
Wow.
where he draws the Sanctum Seeker.
This is absurd.
This is so much damage. Not only that, I mean, Yamwing Chun does have 5 mana up. Piotr might not want to get Unfriendly Fired.
Yes, and he also has a Vampire Zeal in his hand, so he's for sure going to want to keep that available when he
Oh,
does
yeah.
play the Sanctum
This is
Seeker,
going
because
to
it plays
be-
around on Friendly Fire. You know, I don't like to call him too early, but this one's
a-
done. I mean, this is the type of thing that for those of you that play on Magic Online, the next turn, Piotr's going to cast a Sanctum Seeker, attack with everything, and we're going to see a flood of triggers. You know, you're not going to see them on the screen, but yep. Okay.
Here we go, here we go.
You know, watch this.
Oh,
Bam!
You know this
Sanctum
Unfriendly
Seeker.
Fire is going to happen, and that Vampire Zeal is... Oh, this is going to be brutal.
Game.
Nope.
Game.
Sorry.
Wow.
All right,
This
time
is
to put the triggers on the
savaging.
stack.
I would
There's
not
also the
be
Conquistador
shocked.
trigger.
Of course, I would not be shocked if Yam just conceded after his next draw
This is
step,
8 damage from the attack trigger alone.
and then he can block one card and
then
take an
7 more
additional
damage.
6. He's at 2.
Oh, 6, right. And Piotr also gained a ton. 3, 4, 7.
He gained 12, 13
7 plus
life.
6, 13. He's at 42. Is it 42 to 1? Oh, 42 to 2.
42 to 2. What is
All right.
going on here?
All right. Uphill battle. Let's just say uphill battle.
How's that spot removal treating you, Yam?
Does that advantage bar just go to the booster draft portion? Like, can we extend it? Like,
No, we haven't got. It doesn't go to 11 as
like
it were,
it just
but-
keeps moving and then it explodes. Like,
All right. Sorry, Yam. This one's has not turned out well for you. This is just one of those really powerful draws from the Vampires deck.
He's just, what happened?
Keeping in mind here, by the way, that was uncommon, the 2 Call of the Feast. Also the Vicious Conquistador, and then followed up by the rare Sanctum Seeker.
Yep.
And that's
Wow.
the game there. The Thematic Compass, well, it didn't do anything, but
It
it just
did not.
dug him up a land or two.
It got him
but-
a land.
Yeah, but wow, powerful stuff. We really got to see the pure upside of the Vampires deck there in the hands of Piotr Glogowski as he, well, took one big turn and just smashed. Yeah, but that, of course, means that we get a game number 3, so that one's not over
Oh, it's
yet.
the same game.
Yes, and, not surprisingly, this... Oh, hey, he's finally using the Skittering Heartstopper. We did it. See how this works out for him.
And Paulo's now at a point where he's pretty comfortable attacking. So he's stabilized the board with the Vance's blasting cannons here.
Something kind of weird. Did he? Oh, I see. Look what happened here. The graveyards tell the tale of this story. So that Direfleet Interloper used to have Mark of the Vampire. That is in the graveyard, but the Interloper isn't. Look at Paulo's graveyard.
Got to crush it.
Crushing Canopy. Took out that enchantment and assumingly made a terrible block here for Brad as he's now losing his Interloper in the transaction as well. And we see that Paulo's really been able to leverage this Vance's blasting cannon since we left the game.
Pretty firmly in the lead now. It just seems really difficult to come back from here. Paulo's just drawing an extra card every single turn with all the mana that he has available. But I think he drew a lightning strike.
Well, I see a pretty good target for a lightning strike. Wanted Scoundrels. Although I do see that Brad is still holding that Depths of Desire in hand.
Oh,
He's
now
got
you
Skullduggery
lightning strike.
too.
You
Oh,
gotta
no.
extract every last possible bit of value here.
And now Brad has to decide if he wants to use Depths of Desire to either save his Scoundrels or to bounce the Dino.
Okay, and he's saving the Scoundrels.
But that transaction from Paulo's perspective is just fine.
Totally fine.
You saw him pretty quickly do the hand gesture of
So the
yes, that was
Blightkeeper, solid turn 1 play. I mean, he does get a drain here, but there's just so much power on Paulo's side here.
Nest Robber still looking completely terrible. It got eaten up by a Raging Swordtooth earlier, and now this one still doesn't have an attack.
Yeah, Ixali's Keeper would be a little bit better here, I would say.
Agree. Hard agree with that one, Paul.
But Paulo basically has all the answers. He even has an Unfriendly Fire in hand, which you can use to just get rid of that Blightkeeper, just prevent any nonsense from occurring. He has a better board position, and he's got the inevitability because he's drawing
Oh,
additional
no.
cards.
Dive down off the top of the library. Paul. The turn after your opponent used a 5-mana removal spell on your 1-drop, and then you draw the dive down.
You just know.
Now, this is a reasonable clock, though Paulo would like to see a little something more than just a bunch of 2-powered creatures. That said, Brad's down to 7.
Yep, and he's still filtering through all of his lands.
Brad could use his dive down as a combat. Oh,
Ooh,
Dinosaur
Dino
Stampede.
Stampede.
Incoming.
Paulo's just like,
This is game 3, and all Paulo has to do is pick up 3 lands as he kind of shakes his head.
wow.
And wins it.
Crack those treasures. Yeah, you can do it
Yep.
anytime. I just got short-sighted and was like, I need more blue mana, so I'll use treasures for blue.
I should not have played this. Should have just held it. Like, it wasn't accomplishing anything, and then I would have just flipped this next turn.
Gotcha, with the triple spell. Yeah, and that makes short work for me too.
Of course, you hear this often after a game of Magic where the players will sort of commiserate about maybe a mistake they made or a play that happened, and in retrospect, and that's one of the hardest parts about Magic is figuring out what's going to happen going into the future, where once it's happened, you're like, oh, if I would have done this would have worked out better. And for example, even Paulo, the Hall of Famer, said, I played out this Ranging Raptors that wasn't having any effect on the board, but he had stockpiled enough cards in his hand that it would have been his 3rd spell to transform Vance's blasting cannons, and he could have ended the game even sooner.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important quality to have. as a competitive Magic player to always just reflect on all the games that you've played, win or lose, and just think about like, all the kind of 50-50 plays that you were thinking about, and was the line you took optimal? Like, could you have played this turn better? Like, what did you do wrong? And I think people often, when they lose, they try to pinpoint something random that occurred during the game that they lost, or when they win, you just kind of ignore it because you won. Because I didn't play incorrectly. I won the game anyways. Didn't matter. But every single game, just always look back. Look at what PV did. He's like, look, I know I won this game, but I didn't think I had to play that ranging Raptors. That could have cost me the game.
Yeah, it's a big moment in your Magic career when you look back at a game that you won and realize that you still played badly.
Yamwing Chun 2-drop every single game.
Man, this guy just drawn like a champion. He even has a clean attack here.
Looks like he's short on cards, but maybe
he has gone 2-drop into 3. Oh, he ended up getting into 5 cards here.
He mulled a 5. This is. Oh. Oh, okay.
No. So I guess he did not mulligan then. But check this out.
Oh, he's got the Dreadmine in hand. Okay. Oh,
No. He's got the Monstrosaur in hand.
Oh,
How about
wow.
a turn 4
Turn
charging
4?
Monstrosaur? How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that?
How about we ask Piotr
excited.
Glogowski how he feels about it?
Oh, well, no, I don't think the call to the feast is going to get it done this time. Get in there. Oh.
Yep. And you see the hand on the head
ball.
for Glogowski. This is why we call this the mythic uncommon of the set. Because now the question is this. Peter, do you have an answer to this?
Do you have
If you do, you get to
Judgment?
keep playing Magic. Yes, you have Legion's Judgment. Do you have a Pious Interdiction? Something like that.
He needs to have one of those.
And he doesn't. Right?
This is
Because
not getting
now
it
what's
done.
going to happen is Glogowski is going to be forced either this turn or next to triple block. And if Yam has literal any card to interact
Anything.
with any creature,
combat trick.
then the game's over.
All right, so that was a crushing canopy.
Yes, that does it.
That does do it.
Yes.
Yes, it does. Right. I was just
He has a flyer. It's just like, it doesn't matter. If it's Sure Strike, if it's a removal spell, if it's a pump spell, if it's a combat trick, anything, he just gets blown out. And that's why
I
Charging
think you just attack
Monstrosaur
with the warrior
is so
there, too.
good.
Yeah.
I
Now,
agree.
what is Piotr going to do? Like, does he just have to deal with this Monstrosaur, or does he have a 5-mana answer? Like, is he just going to put all 3 creatures in front and just hope for the best? Oh, no!
He has to. That's the point of the
Yeah.
format, right? Or
Right.
Of the card. He just doesn't have a choice. And now even a mediocre sideboard card. And you see Glogowski
He just chucks them
pick
all
him
in
up
there.
and just chuck him in.
Oh, my goodness.
It's just disheartening to see this
Right.
dinosaur running over Piotr Glogowski here. And there's just nothing he can do.
Yeah.
He had...
Piotr had a reasonable start.
Yes.
Played a bunch of creatures, but sometimes...
Well, now
Mythic
we know who
Uncommon
that
gets
is in
you
the
there.
artwork of the card, don't we, Paul? It's Piotr Glogowski or anybody else daring to play a game of Magic against a Charging Monstrosaur.
It just feels like one of those, like, so what happened? It's like, charging. I got charging monsters.
Got Monstrosaur out.
Yeah.
And, of course, that
And just
thematic
more beats,
compass
5-3
is looking
trampler
terrible here. And that's going to do it.
Oh.
Yam Wing Chun is your lone undefeated player here in day 2 at Pro Tour Ixalan, picking up his round 1 match and kind of shaking his head like, man, can you believe how good that card is?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, now, and we should also note here that, he got it a turn early, which makes it, I mean, how much better is it, right? It's like
huge.
On
On the
turn
play?
5, on the play on turn 4, there was a Charging Monstrosaur in the red zone against Glogowski, who, by the way, had a perfectly reasonable draw. I mean, sure, he drew that compass, and you saw that was kind of part of the reasoning why we don't like it so much. Is it just didn't do anything. Like,
Right.
he didn't get to activate it. It doesn't attack or block. It was just like,
Yeah, the thing is, if you got to the late game where Yamwing Chun wasn't able to kind of ramp out the Monstrosaur, let's say it was a little bit slower draw, maybe you can take advantage of that, and once it flips, you actually get a very powerful card. But he just, when you play out that Monstrosaur on turn 4 on the play, there are very, very few removal spells that can actually just deal with it.
Yeah, and you saw it too. I mean, this is what we had led up to. Is Glogowski's like, shrug, triple block. I hope you don't have one of 8 spells you could have.
Yam actually just drew the timely card there too. I mean, he could have also just
One of
run
them.
any of his removal spells too, right? Because
Well-
he could have just fired it off pre-combat, like a Fire Cannon Blast, for example.
Yes, Fire Cannon Blast would have been good, but he was actually still a mana short. He had lost his his Blossom Dryad there. So.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. But
wow.
yeah, anything does it. And that's how it goes sometimes in the world of Ixalan. You just get ran over by a dinosaur. So we've got more draft action coming up and updates from the news desk. But first, these messages.
At 7-2, you're ahead of the race for the top 8. Here's 6 people who are ahead of the race for the top 8 at 7-2. Patricia Roman of Chile is playing in his 4th Pro Tour, has a losing record from his first 3, 7-2, clearly his best performance so far. Now, Bram Snetvangers, that's a name we haven't talked about at the top tables for a long time, but he is in the Magic Hall of Fame, and right now he's 7-2. So's Martin Dang, the Pro Tour champion from Dragons of Tarkir, and Panagiotis Papadopoulos of Greece. He's a gold pro this year. Louis Del Tour doesn't have a Pro Tour top 8, but does does have 4 Grand Prix top 8s. He's ahead of the curve for the top 8 race. And Alexandre Aurillac, his fellow Frenchman, he's playing in his 6th Pro Tour. Again, not a great record so far, but piecing it together as part of the Magic Corsairs crew. So that's just 6 players who might go on to make the top 8. Meanwhile, someone who's even further ahead of the curve for top 8 is the man who won the whole thing last time, a Pro Tour out of devastation. It's Brian David Marshall with PVDDR.
Thanks, Rich. I'm here with Player of the Year, 2-time Pro Tour champion, 12-time Pro Tour top 8 competitor, my Grand Prix Phoenix co-commentator, loving son. Hi, Mrs. Damo. I am so sorry about that iced coffee. You'll find out about that a little later today. And Paulo, you're off to a tremendous start here following your Pro Tour win. Tell us a little bit about how you navigated the draft table that we just watched.
I mean, I think this draft was really simple to navigate for me. In Ixalan, sometimes you have to, find the open tribe, and it's really hard. I just opened all rares in the same tribe and color. So it was really easy. Like, my first pick was Regisaur Alpha, then the second pack first pick was Charging Monstrosaur, and the third, when I was undecided between red and green, I opened Ripjaw Raptor. So fate just decided everything for me, I guess.
Now, you got past 2 Vance's blasting cannons in the draft. You ended up playing both of them, and you said this was a card you don't have a ton of experience with. You were doing a little bit of on-the-job training with the card.
Yeah, it's a card that I don't like very much, and other people like a lot, so I almost never have it because I don't pick it very early. This time I happened to get it pretty late. I got both. I think it was 5th and 6th or 4th and 5th, and there wasn't anything in the pack, so I took them. They're really good in installed games, and when your cover is really cheap, that you can flip them, they're great. They're usually not at their best in red green dinosaurs, but my curve is pretty low for dinosaurs, I think, overall. So I think they're okay in my deck. They aren't amazing bombs by any means, but I'm happy to play both.
Tell us about the sequence where you said you sort of struggled a little bit with how to sort of get the maximum value out of the card. What's something people at home can take away from that?
Yeah, the thing is that you have to play the card that you're flipping because otherwise it's gone. But you also, if you can hold the card in your hand, then you want to do that because you can make sure that you actually flip the Menace Blasting Cannons on the following turns. And I made a mistake with that. I thought, well, I have to play whatever is next. I'm kind of under pressure, so I played Ranging Raptors that I didn't really have to, which made me unable to flip the card next turn, which would have won me the game a lot sooner. So, and then, I had Lightning Strike and Raptor in my hand, so I only needed 1 spell if I hold. But since I played the Raptor, I needed 2, and I never got that. So it was a pretty bad mistake.
But the tournament was very kind to you there. You continue on your 8-1. Talk a little bit about this team result. You've been with Channel Fireball through some pretty amazing runs. Do you ever recall a day 1 like this?
No, I don't. And honestly, I don't think it's ever been done. Our win percentage was absurd. We're probably not going to keep it up today. But we won 79% of our matches. And then the second team won 63. So it's a very, very big difference. It's amazing how well we did. I'm super proud of my team and myself. I'm really happy we did that. Hopefully we can convert this great day 1 into good day 2 as well. But I'm pretty happy.
All right, Paulo, let you get back. Pairings are up. Sending it back to the desk.
Thanks very much to BDM and PVDDR there. All right, that was a bit of a mouthful. And talking of mouthfuls, vampires. They like to get their teeth into things, and getting into the teeth of the vampires deck is a draft archetype blueprint with Maria and Simon Gertzen.